Greetings again, Scott here, known as Cantaloupe Online, with another video. This one's going to overview the finishing part of a process I've been using in a lot of projects I've worked on recently that are actually games, online multiplayer games. I did a past video about the site itself, and I'm not here to plug that. I'm here to show the process that I use to actually get the multiplayer part of it working, which is kind of a mystery to a lot of people. It's kind of a new idea. I don't know, it's my idea. I'm not sure if someone's done it before, but I'm going to go over it. Here's the video. So this is sped up a little bit to save you the 40 minutes it took. This is arguably the most difficult implementation of the 8 games I've already put up on this site. Not because this game in particular is different or extra challenging, but I ran into some unique challenges, and I'll get into those in a little bit more later on. But real quick, I've been doing some copying and pasting, which is normal in the world of software development. You make things modular for a reason so that you can reuse them, but there's something called bit rot, or maybe you have a different name for it. It's when a file or a piece of code or a digital asset is copied. It eventually starts to change a little bit, and in code especially, because you're not copying it exactly necessarily. There's going to be a couple of changes each time. So by the 8th game, this is a great example, I have this function that connects to a database, and the original function was pretty straightforward, and as the games need to add more, I kept changing the function a little bit as needed to make it work with the new game. But now by the 8th game, I have this function that has become a little unwieldy. So honestly, it's taken me the better part of 3 days to actually iron out some of the bugs, and this was a bit of a learning experience for me, in that sometimes it takes a full overhaul of a piece of code, even if it's been working, just to get it to an efficiency point again. So the way this works, and you can see on the screen here, it's for kind of a flight sim battle jet game. It's called Battle Jets, whatever. But it capitalizes on the technology and research that has gone into DBMSs, which is a database management system. There's many different types of them. The one that I know and love the most is MySQL, and there's no particular reason for that. It's just familiarity, and it works really well. And most of these systems have been fire tested for many years. This is not a new technology. It's been around for many decades at this point. The idea is there's input, of course, user input or web input, and records are stored in a way that it maximizes efficiency for reading and writing. And I'm leveraging that technology that is already existing. The DBMS has already done that heavy lifting, so that I don't necessarily need to figure out how to plug and read data in a way that's not going to have collisions and efficiency problems and bottlenecks internally on the server. So if I'm using a database anyway, and I happen to also be using the database, why not use it for the game itself? So that was my logic. The idea is it's an extremely simple table, actually. It's just got I don't need to describe it in detail, but it's basically got just a small handful of fields that are populated at the time a game is launched, and each client, each session, will read to this based on a hash or an identification, a row ID. They're reading the same record, and this is a feature of the DBMS. It can handle a great number of simultaneous connections or sequential connections. However they come in, it's prepared. That's what it does. So I don't need to have a listener for multiple things or limit how many connections. It's already doing all that. So the clients, the browsers in this case, it's a browser-based game, will connect to the back end, wherever that is. And all the magic just happens almost seamlessly on the back end. So there's a very important field that I've defined in this database, and it's just a text field. It's for just a raw text dump of data. And the database itself isn't really even managing, it's not micromanaging the games at all. It's just waiting for text. It reads an input, or if it's it can store data obviously, and it can also output data. So it's doing both of those things fairly quickly, and I have a variable in here that configures how quickly. I'm using some free resources for testing, and they typically throttle your bandwidth or your database access if it becomes too heavy or too frequent. So I'm trying to avoid that, and then it's actually very easy to avoid. So what I do is I have a timer in the program of the game that's running in your browser, and a few times a second turns out to be just fine for these kind of games. Even a flight simulator, a few times a second to read and write, that does it all at the same time. It sends out a packet of your player data, where your plane is located. It's compressed into the JSON format, JSON, and it reads back the response, which is what everyone else has also been sending in at the same time. And then there's some clever server code that just merges it all together. So every time it gets a packet back from the server, it shows the position of everybody else in the game, and you're sending your own position in the same query. So it's a very streamlined, fast, compact approach to networking multiple players online. And it's working pretty well. You can see here I finally worked out some of the bugs. I've been tracking down one that in particular caused me a great deal of problems in the last couple of days, and that was something that can happen to even the most seasoned programmer, and that is when you're working too quickly, you may make a typo. So obviously the most difficult typos to check are capitalization, because JavaScript is a case-sensitive language, and a capital V, for example, is not the same as a lowercase v, and when you have 3,000 plus lines of code, it can be difficult to track those down. But I did finally, and the game is networking properly. It's all uploaded. It's working as of today. So there's an 8th game, and let's see here. It's a little bit longer than I anticipated, but you can see on the screen kind of the process I'm going through to troubleshoot and identify where that bug was. And it involves, in this case, opening multiple clients, multiple screens. You run 2 game sessions, and it will produce an error, and then you use that error to just trace it through the code until you find, debugging's an art form, and I don't need to get all into that, but it works. The game's up, and I'm going to put a link to the game online or at the end of the video. So thank you for your time, and have a good day.